Kumlenen, Ablat Gemara, we're up to the Tzadik Gimel, and we stopped sort of right before the end of the Gemara. So bottom line, what we're talking about over here is, and the next mission actually we'll discuss it again, and that is that a person has a right to say to the employer, you know what, instead of this right that I have entitlement to eat while I'm being, just give me paid out in cash, in lieu. And he can even do this on behalf of his older children or his wife because they can be meichel. Then we say, however, regarding his younger children, he cannot because they cannot be meichel. And we talked also about an eved v'shivcha haknanim. If they're underage, he cannot be meichel on their behalf. So we had a discussion. The purpose of this, why we're talking about this, is because we had a discussion that this particular entitlement, is that part of the wage, or is that some like this docker that comes from the Eibishter? And the difference is there's the wage, and you have a right to go ahead and be meichel on behalf of other ones. But if it's shal shamayim, then you cannot, for example, say that I don't want my kids to have any because it's not yours to give away or not. So we had a brisa of Oishia which contradicts what we just said regarding the case of Avdei v'Shivchose Haktanim. They're young. That in our mission says that you cannot contract out of it, but he said you could. So we tried to understand the differences. We gave a number of different machlekes, and we said that maybe he's talking about whether you if it's even if it's part of the wage, it's talking about whether the different mission of the brisa is whether you fed them or not. Because if you fed them, then whatever they earn belongs to you. So therefore, since it's part of your wage and they're working, their earnings belong to you. You can make up any range you want. It's my earnings. But if you don't feed them, then whatever the earnings that this cotton has, it's nothing to do with you. How can you contract out of it? But then we brought down Rabbi Yechon who holds that we learned Gemara Gittin Afyud Beis that a person has a right to say to his servant, I'm not going to feed you, but still your earnings belong to me. So the Mishnah Brisa, how come? So the Brisa makes sense then. I don't care if he did feed him, he didn't feed him. It's my earnings, and therefore I can contract out of it, even though they're Tanim. But then the question is, what's Pshat now Mishnah? So we're up to now the Gemara here, 3 lines above the Mishnah, trying to understand the difference between our Mishnah that says you cannot contract out by Avdei Shivchos Haktanim, and Rabbi Oishia's Brisa says you could. The Gemara says, Ella Kuli Alma, 4 lines above the Mishnah, that's Tzadik Gimel Amud Aleph. Kuli Alma, everyone agrees. Mishal Shamayim Ho'oichel, everyone agrees. It's an entitlement from the Eibishter. It's tzedakah, and therefore you have no right to contract out. For adults, you could because they agree they're meichel, but not for kids. What's fascinating, what we learned yesterday, is that for your own children, even if you hold that you're allowed to contract out, let's say by a contrabation, when it comes to an eved, a shivcha ktanim, but not your own children. And why not? Because even though the Torah gave you rights to your own children, to that their money, their mitzvahs, the Rabboni gave a right that you can go, it belongs to you, but you have absolutely no right to cause your children pain. For them to work and to see the food in front of them and not being able to eat is painful. And no one gave you the right to cause them pain. And that's today's big controversy of parents allowed to smack their children. So they took it a step further. But general principle is that parent doesn't have a right to cause pain to their own children. So getting back here, so we're saying everyone agrees with Shoshamayim. It's an entitlement from tzedakah, from the Torah. And therefore you cannot contract out on behalf of young children because the older ones they're meichel, but the younger ones you have no right. No, so if you have no right, how come the Mishnah, the Rabbi says you do? Says the Gemara, my koitzes, when it says over here that you could contract out, doesn't mean you say, you know what, give me cash, we don't want the food, we don't want the entitlement, give us some money in lieu. No, my coach mezoinus. You're allowed to say to them, the 9-year-olds are going to work for you, even though slave labor, they're going to work for you, but they are slaves. They're going to work for you. Feed them before they start working, so they won't be hungry. They won't have to use up their entitlement. Different word koitzes altogether. Well, my koitzes means the amrabayisha mezoinus. Feed them beforehand, so they won't eat during the work. Says it doesn't make sense, because one of the things that says here by behema, you're not allowed to muzzle up the mouth. But if you tell me koitzes means to feed them before they go to work, by behema, you're allowed to do the same thing. In fact, we learned before you're allowed to cover it with you're allowed to cover it with straw. And as a result of covering the thing with straw, you'll eat the straw, which is a lot cheaper than eating the actual crop. So what's the contrast? The kavos behem to tevet. No knockers losa. Why does it say you cannot give it to your behemoth? If you're telling me knocker does not mean to contract out. It means you say, you know what, feed them before. So why can't you do behemoth? So now we're giving a new shot. The Childi Mishnah Brisa is very simple. The Brisa holds it's my part of my wages, and therefore my servants are working. It's my wages. I can contract out of it. Either it's talking about a case where I'm not where I am feeding them. So therefore, the wages belong to me. I can. It's my wish. No, but Mishalayach means that this is part of the wage. Shalai means whoever the worker is part of the wage. But by an Evan, who owns his wages? His balabas, not the balabas of the property, his balabas. And according to some opinions in the Gemara, there's only if you feed them. If you don't feed them, then you can't take their wages. And according to Rabbi Yechon, even if you don't feed them, you keep it. So whichever way you learn, it's talking about a case where the wages belong to this balabas. The balabas says to the owner of the field, my wages, don't feed them. Don't give them anything. I want cash in lieu. That's the base. But our Mishnah holds that it's a mitzvah and tzedakah, and therefore, since I have and young children cannot be meichel, I have no right to say to Balabas, you know what? We're meichel the thing, give us money instead. Can't do that on their behalf. And it's not. It's not my balabatas card. I don't own this money. It's not my wages that I have a right to make to know him how it should work out. In fact, now this is the Mishnah that we brought in the Gemara yesterday. A person can make up regarding himself. I don't want to have that entitlement. Give me money. I did maybe also for his old children because they know about it and they're meichel. I have most of the older servants. They're also meichel. I ishta also his wife. So they has to be aware of what you're doing and they're meichel. But you cannot do it on behalf of the young children because they cannot be meichel. They cannot be meichel. And we're saying whichever way you learn, even if it's wages, so I should be able to contract out, you have no right to cause them pay. And if it's Mishal Shemaim, then obviously you can. And they can be meichel. The loyai, the avdim shechosek tanim, nor the young servants as well. Again, if you hold Mishal Shemaim, you have no right. This is how we learned more just now. That this Mishnah holds Mishal Shemaim, it's tzedakah, and you have no right to contract out of it. The loyai de behemta, not or behema for sure not. Because the behemoth, that's chesima. That's the east of loisachsim. Bipnei she'emen das. I'm sure that she'emen das is not referring to behemoth. We don't need to say that. I know. It's obvious. Now we had this the way it says, well, you hired workers, you hired workers to work in a field where everything is the only way place you can eat it is if you take it to the shalayim. If you hire somebody to work for you, then obviously they cannot eat because they knew it said net they accepted it as if they were meichel. But if we did not tell them inform them, so they thought that this, in addition to my wage, I'm going to have lunch. Then it's his duty, it's obligation to redeem it because he transferred the kedusha to money. That money you take to Yerushalayim and you allow the employees to get their entitlement. This parsha gulav, so the pressed figs opened up. Now you cannot tell really if they were ever if it was already. It's pressed together, so it's a gemar malacha. It's already chayv and ma'isa, therefore you're not entitled to eat it. Because we learned from kanafrecha. Just like balabos cannot eat if there's chayv and ma'isa, and you can't say to balabos you have a chayv giving ma'isa so I can eat. But if you look at after you don't. So, or this is for the first time. If it's the first time, it's not yet gemar malacha. I'm entitled to eat. Can't tell. But if he knew. And he accepted. Or in his pachtuch, so the wine's already in the barrel. That means the already gemar malacha chayv and ma'isa. He knew that. He knew you won't be able to eat a drink. Okay, then not ate a you can't. But he didn't tell them, and they couldn't tell because even the barrel of wine we said yesterday, you have to remove the foam. And this place, the minig was whoever is the one who put the lid on the barrel, and he didn't know that the lid was already on there. It was all taken care of, and it fell off, and now he's asking to put it back on. They just say, "Can you put the lids on?" If he didn't know, then it's a mekatos, and you have to go get the ma'aser and let me machilin. Then he said the last thing here, Shoimrei Peitus. What about a guard? Is a guard, remember we learned that when you're entitled to eat only if you're working with this field. Being a guard, is that considered working with the field? Or that, it's extraneous to the field? You're standing outside, you have no connection to the field. Just because you're the guard of the field, it's not oisa maisa. So which one is it? So the Mishnah says, if you're guarding the peitus, oichlin, you can eat, but mehilchas medina. It's not from the Torah. But what is it? It's only it's a minig hamakim. Minig hamakim. It's that's the convention there. I will let me tell you. It's not mahatayda. You will explain. Hilchus medina. I guess because when you hire somebody, you the dinner malchus dinner, and therefore this you have to follow what the minig is. A big machlek is how to understand this. Comes along the Moshe show me the payers guarding payers. Rav, that's like this. Rav says lo shanu. When do we say that a guard? Rav holds that a guard is considered working with whatever he's guarding. He's working with it. There's different ways to work with it. One way you put your hand, you get your hands dirty, and one way you're standing and guarding it, but both doing the same thing. They're protecting and the whatever the contents are there. So when do we say that a Shem Pedis is not Mahatayt entitled to eat? We're talking about that you're watching a garden, a growing garden, an orchard, so they're mechuber. And when do we say before by mechuber? Remember, we learned that a poil can eat mechuber or tolish, whether it's attached or whether it's cut off. When can eat mechuber? Only if it's fully ripe. But if you're guarding the orchard while growing, that means it's not yet fully ripe. So it's not fully ripe. I'll tell you, you're not entitled to it. Why aren't you entitled to it? Not because the guard duty is not working, because it's not Gemar Malacha. I need Gemar Malacha. But why do you eat? Because the meaning of Malcolm is that this is what you do. You spend all the day, all the hours of the day guarding, so therefore you're entitled. If you're watching already the vats and all these things which are piled up, or the silo, everything is piled up over there. When nobody's it's Gemar Malacha. But what's your duty? Your duty is merely be a guard. So what? But it's Gemar Malacha. As long as it's not Chayiv yet a Maisa, you're entitled to eat. Why? Because somebody holds Mishram Ka'isa Maisa Dami. Yeah, but he holds that a guard duty is no different than the farmer, the guy who's working with the field itself.
So the central part of the avodah.
Exactly. So therefore, but the only, but when the Mishnah says that's only meaning Amakim is talking about it wasn't ripe. If it's not ripe, then Mahatay not entitled to it. But by Mechubah, but meaning Amakim will entitle you. That's Rav. Shmuel says no. I hold the guard duty is not considered working. Kisava b'kedem is talking about you're actually going in and you're working with the kedem of the over there, not if just guard duty. So he holds guard duty is not considered work. So what's Pshat in the Mishnah? Yeah, pearl bucket. Yeah, but it's a lesser, it's less strenuous. Yes, less strenuous. But as far as the Torah is entitlements, where do we how do we treat that?
It seems all
the time people are hungry.
It's such an interesting thing.
Look at today. How many security guards are one of the biggest.
They factor in the percentage of cost.
They call it shrinkage. Interesting word, shrinkage. They don't call it theft. Somehow another food shrinks.
On the shelf lists.
Yeah. Shmuel says, no, he says guard duty is garnished. And if you're watching a field that's unripe, you get nothing. When do we say that you're entitled to minig hamakom is if it's already complete. It's already complete. So if you'll be working with it, you'll be entitled, but not that you're doing just guard duty. Okay, so the minig hamakom. If you're watching a garden or an orchard, he holds guard duty is not like you being actively involved with this item. It says in the Braisa, somebody guards a paraduma, make sure that it doesn't become tummy, doesn't do any work or anything else, because all the oil and all that. And also, after you shecht it, you watch it till you gather all the ashes together. You watch, make sure it becomes tummy. He's metamid godim. He's clothes become tummy, as if he was actively involved with the paraduma. The yamish, I'm not going to he's not a guard duty. He's not really involved with the item itself. Am I metamid godim? We know that the Torah says in Chukas that if you want to spray, people are actively involved, but you're not. You're telling me guard duty is extraneous to the contents of whatever you're watching. That's only the Rabbanim. We are worried. Maybe you weren't so careful. Maybe you moved something without realizing. It's more than touching. Yazid means you actually moved it. Most of Rav Kana said. That's only the Rabbanim. Rav Kana asks a question. It says, if somebody watches 4 or 5 different patches, let's say of cucumbers, but 4 or 5 different owners. So do I have to proportion, how I'm going to eat my entitlement, or can I just go to one of the easiest one and pick all eat all their cucumbers that I want? Yeah. Actually, the matter is, some people type gourd family, some people type cucumbers, some people say squash. Whatever it is, it's a vegetable. We always learn that it's a cucumber. In fact, Rashi says a chumash, cucumbers. I'll make sure that says cucumbers. So it sounds more like cucumbers than squash. The gourd family. Once you have the gourd family, you pumpkin green. Anyway, you shouldn't eat for one of the owners. Proportion according to a fifth. But you telling me that what? all he's doing is guarding the cucumber. Why is he eating it all? You just said a guard does nothing. Why is he eating? Am I yoichel? Oh, but I feel Rashi, but I couldn't show. I'm talking about they were already cut, already harvested, they were already detached. They were detached, and they were detached together with their roots. They were already detached. Says the Gemara. So that's why it's called mik. It's Rashi. That's why it's called mikshoy. It's not kishuyin. You say Rashi is interesting. Kishuyin means the finished product. Mikshoy says it's almost finished because it's still the roots are attached to it, so you still have a little bit more work to do. So yeah, so exactly. So but even though it's cut off already, but because the roots are attached, now, but so what are they guarding? Not if they guarding mechuber kodesh shmuel, they get nothing. They're guarding talush. So therefore, because you're guarding talush, meaning I'm not continued. But when you ask the question, if you already picked and everything, the people are lying there, then you chayv ma'isa. And once you chayv ma'isa, you're not entitled to anything. So a little pictures like he didn't take the flower off them. In other words, when is the gemar ma'isa when you pull the roots off? Take the last piece off, it didn't come off yet. It makes sense like that a guard duty is not considered essential. It's not. We learned. It says the following ones can eat mehatoida. This is the Mishnah talks about all of these things. The following things the poil can eat mehatoida. Who can eat? If he's working with something that's attached to the ground, only when it's ripe. If it's unripe, he can't. But these are eat mehatoida. As if to say this. The Rabban, you can eat other things, or minigamak other things, but this is what you title to mehatoida. Ubetalish, or if it's cut off, could be learned out from the behemoth, even if it's cut off. As long as you're not chayiv and ma'aser yet. These are the two conditions. Talush, you're not chayiv, it's ripe. Obviously, if the talush is ripe, but not chayiv and ma'aser. Or if it's attached, but it's ripe. Miklau, the eat the loikochel minatoida. The fact is, these eat mahatoida sounds like, but there are other things that you eat, but they're wrong. Or min hamakim. No, ain't mistake. But then it says the elusha ain't an these you don't eat at all. Now let me ask you a question. If it's chayiv and ma'aser, if it's already ready, but chayiv and ma'aser you can't eat from it, or if it's unripe and it's growing. What does elusha ain't mean? My is he saying these you don't eat mahatoida, but minhagam you do eat? Like Rav said, isn't that the same thing in the first part of the Mishnah, which says these are mahatoida, but the other thing you minhagam. So what's the safe adding? Ela mihilchu it's exactly the same thing that Aisha said. These are mahatoida, but the other ones you eat minhagam. These things you don't eat, not even dinner. If it's growing on right, don't eat. Not like that. If it's cut off already, but the chayim you don't. If it's unripe, you don't even eat beside the convention, beside the meaning of market. The host can show me again as a pardes. If you're watching, it's attached and it's unripe. Nothing to talk about. You are not mother. If you're working with mechuba that's unripe, you have not entitled to anything, not even a makom. Surely, if you're merely a guard, you're not entitled. Right, now we move on to Shemim. Interesting. In the next few prakim, we learn all about Shemim, Hashol, all that, and yet we started in Haseich as a pagan, as if this because some of the Shemim is one of them is a seicha that are high, but one of them is Shem Basacha that you actually pay him. So in a way, it's like a poil. So therefore, it flows the synergy. You see the synergy how it goes from Palin to Shemim. How about Shemim? Full kind of Shemim. There's a Shemim who doesn't get paid at all, does you a favor. Hashayol, the other end of the spectrum is somebody who borrows. Noisei Sacha, somebody gets paid for minding it. V'haseich, and somebody rents. Shemim is part of everything different. He swears and he walks away. The only thing he's chayiv for is Shia. And there's a machlek we had whether pshi is a din and shemim or pshi is like a mazik. By saying that nishbala hakoil, sounds like more that pshi is sort of out of the realm. He's potter. Pshi, he's not potter, he's chai, but pshi is not really a din and shemim. It's more like a mazik according to some. But a borrower, mishalam al hakoil, he pays on everything. The truth of the matter is there is an exemption if mesa machmas malacha, if it dies for the activity to do high, and also borrowed, and also if by love imaj. We'll learn later on again. The noisei sachar, if somebody gets paid, and asaychin of your rent, what's your responsibility then? Nishboyim, their response, they're potter from shavura, an accident happened, broke, shvuya was kidnapped, while a massive died by accident. Or the mishal was a big neighbor, it was lost a stone, that's what they paid. We hadn't the Gemara. We talked about in the Gemara a few times already in Bava Kama then, saying that about the dinim of Shemim. So says the Gemara, Mantana Abba Shem, who is for Shem, who says that a Shem is Sacher and a Sacher are the same. I'm the Rabbi Nachami, let's Abba Shem, who is for Shem, who doesn't hold the for Shem. I'm the Hakim, that's what I mean. Mantana, that Sacher is the same thing as a Noise Sacher. That somebody who hires is the same thing like we he's getting paid. He's responsible for Gneva Aveda. Because you can argue, if I'm paying you, then it should mitigate my responsibilities because I'm paying you for it. Nevertheless, you have it in the Shem Zoch, you chai for Gneva Aveda. A maid, that's a maid. Think about a maid, if Cheshmila Bila Maid says Fakir, the time when the Bryce says Soichi, Kate from Shem Maid says Shemachinam, Vezmo says Shemachinam, and brings the Shem Zocher. So we already had before the Gemara, Rabba Bar Avu Ifchaktani, swaps the name around. Remember, we had a contradiction of Maid, we swapped the names around. But he so Abosh, so there's only three categories, not four. Dalit Shaming of his name Shleisha. There are four different Shaming, but there's three categories. There was a shepherd, David Koroyi, Chayusa, he was taking his animals, Aguda and Papa, right there in the banks of the river of Papa, Shodi, Choda, Menayu. And one of the animals slipped and went off the Maya on the water ground. So the question is he responsible for that? Also, the Kamed Rabo, Potter, he says he's Potter. It's an accident. What do you mean an accident? You did what normal shepherds do. If all we expect from you as a shaman, even though you're a shaman, we expect you to watch it normally. And you watched it normally. And therefore you're Potter. Why should it be different than anybody else? That's how people normally go. If they read their own stock, that's how they would take care of it. So you don't have to be more better than somebody who has his own animal. Not the kid, not the inch. He watched like anybody else would have watched it. So therefore, it's not an Aveda. It's like an oinus. It's not his fault. Why is it fault? All we expect you as a shaman is to be treated as if you were the owner, and that's how owners of animals are. That they walk with the animals along the riverbank, and it happens. And we'll see more soon. That the Moraim will argue. Bye. So according to this, all the must have beaten the islands. Let's say left behind all the animals. Because everybody, let's say, goes to the town at a certain time of the day, and he joined everybody because owners do that as well. They don't get not locked at home. No, and the potter. And if the animal then some accident happens, he's potter. This is not negligence. Oh, he didn't give it due care. I'm like, yeah, he is potter because, as I said, he doesn't have to behave any better than if you, let's say, the owner of the animal, what you would how you would take care of your animal. Gonna put be eating the gonna inch. Let's say people you have a siesta in the middle of the day. So he also had a siesta like everybody else does, and then an accident happened while during that siesta. How can I have the potter? I'm like, yeah. But what you sound so shocked? Yes, that's the opinion of the Rabbah. Shall ask a question. It says Elohim Einzin. The following are the Einzin list of Einzin Sheshemer Sacher Potter Lane. Remember, we said Shemer Sacher. If you get paid, you are Potter for accidents. What's an example of an accident? For example, it says by Iyuv, Batipul Shva came and descended on Iyuv houses and family. Batikochev, and he took everything. Na'odim Hikul, if he killed the youth out, and so on. In other words, that's considered an accident. If you would have been there, he could have done something about it. How can he defend himself against such a force of these moradors? Sorry. It says over there, sounds from there that the only time that you are putted is in a case where you couldn't have done anything, even if you were there. The group came and attacked you, a group of bandits came and attacked you. What are you supposed to do? But if not like a normal case, you've been up instead of sleeping. If you would have not got to town, you'd have been there. You could have saved the animal, then you'd be chayiv. You, Rabbi said, as long as you behave like a normal person, then you're totally potted. Sounds mean? No. The only time you potted is if something major happened that you couldn't have done anything about. You couldn't have salvaged anything. And so he said no. Hasan b'chazoni masa. He said no. There are two kinds of let's say shaman. There's a normal shaman, then we don't expect you a shmira out of you any better than anybody else. Then there's a shaman I specifically hire you for night duty. Why am I hiring for night duty? Because there's nobody else around to watch it. You're the only person that's there. You need to give it more due care. You got to give more due. Remember, we were kids. They used to ask this. I'll teach you to ask this riddle. This person hired a night watchman for a month because he went to Yisrael with his wife there, and then he gets a telegram from this guy. He says, I had a dream last night that you and your wife, the plane that you're going to go on, is going to crash. Please don't go back on the date that you plan to go back. He got suspicious, so he listened to his guard. And sure enough, the plane that he was supposed to go on crashed. So when he came back home, first he gave a big thank you and brought him a big present, and then he fired him. And the teacher asked, why was he fired? He said, last night I fell asleep. What kind of guard are you? You're guard duty, you're supposed to be up at night. So that's what he's saying here. He had that kind of guard you expect more than an ordinary person because everybody's asleep. Okay. Ace, another question very similar. How, to what extent does the Shemer Sachar have to watch? Like Yaakov said to Lavan, he said to Lavan, Hayisi b'yoyim achalan yichayde v'karev b'layla atidah shnosim. I didn't sleep at night. I ate cold in the morning. I watched it. A total dedication. That's what. So it's more than just an ordinary duty. The answer was not. We're talking about these night watchmen or their else asleep. That's different. Yaakov was up at night guarding. Not to look. I guarded it. The tirusa, you say, I didn't do that. I sat and learned whatever I did, but I gave it I had such loyalty and such commitment as if I was one of these, this night guards who's watching everything. Okay, says about it further. I'll ask you a question. That's a bias seems to be asking Rabba. Roya, Shahaya Roya. What happens? The shepherd was shepherding. He left the stock behind and he went into town. Bozev came along a wolf of Taraf and stole one of the sheep. Or a lion came and trampled. Lions trample and kill on the spot. Other animals, they pull their prey to wherever they are, the habitat. We don't say we don't say that if he were there, he could have somehow saved it. We assess. He would have not gone to town. If he would have been there, could he have protected his sheep? Then chayiv. But in lav, even if he would have been there, he couldn't have done anything about it. A lion comes, what are you going to do? Then potter. Now my lav, the old be'edah the island, you're talking about a normal case that he went when everybody else was, and still, if he could have stayed home and saved them, he's responsible. Rabba just said that if you behave the normal way, you're allowed to go to town when everybody goes to town. No. So why would he be responsible at all? So Rabba answered, no, the old be'edah the loy aili insha. Exactly. If you were talking like everybody else during that time, or whatever it is, then it'd be all right. He went a different time, and therefore, it's up to if he could have stayed behind and protected him, he should have. So Abai asked him the question: "My potter, why are you potter? He lost a b'pshia b'seifer b'ayna. So you're telling me that if he would have been there, he couldn't have done anything about it. He's potter. But you're now telling me that he went at a time he shouldn't have gone. That means he was negligent. Is tchiloshe b'pshia. And we had a machlekes. If you started out being negligent, turned out to be what happened was an accident. But you did something which is negligent. Then tchiloshe b'pshia is saved by had a machlekes where you chayiv a potter. So l'chayda, if you follow that, there's tchiloshe chayiv. Why does it over here your potter? It'll be a question of those opinions. Now we did have a big machlekes about Rabba and Taisus whether the oinus at the end has to have any correlation to the pshia in the beginning. In other words, now here, it makes no difference if I was there or I was here. Then how is my pshia leaving have any bearing on the oinus that happened then? If I would have been there, it couldn't have stopped the lion, prevented the lion from attacking. So but Abaye is the one who's saying this, and Abaye holds that we don't care. Robert says that the oinus has to be connected to the pshia, but not Abaye. Anyhow, Abaye doesn't have to be connected at all. So Rabbi answers the shama. It wasn't negligence. The shama, there's no pshia at all. He heard the lion's roar. Shama kol ayin, but oh, so it was chatzilana. He knew he couldn't do anything about it. But maybe he went to protect himself. So if he left because he panicked, so what are we assessing for? Obviously, he couldn't protect it. He personally couldn't protect it. Maybe on his own, but he should have called help. He should have gone ahead and organized that. This din that you have to do whatever you can to protect them, whatever you're minding, is not a din of Shem Sachar. Every Shemer, if they have to spend some money to protect, they should do it, and then they collect it back from Balbas. You, Rabbi, yourself said that Shem Mechinim Shahoy Lo Lekadem Arayim Makbid Lo Kidim, but Shem Mechinim could have easily gone and got some sticks to get some help to prevent any losses. Then Chaya, because it's like negligence. So what do you tell me that it's an oinus, but no, it isn't pshia because he should have gotten the stick. And the Gemara, and you said Shem Mechinim Mechinim Shem Mesacher Mesacher. That a Shem Mechinim doesn't have to spend money, but he has to definitely, if he can find some sticks and help, he should get it. And a Shem Mesacher needs to spend money, and he'll get reimbursed. But ad kama, and how much should he spend? Ad kedei demand until the value. So he's asking, I don't understand. And where do we find that a Shem Mesacher is chayiv You're telling me that I should go hire people to try to prevent it. But if the whole thing is an onus, why is it his duty of care to save einsin? So we answer the Hadar Shokol made Balabais because he gets reimbursed by Balabais. He's not spending the money; he gets reimbursed. Papa, if he's going to spend, you tell me he spends let's say the value of the animal is $100. It's his duty to spend up to $100 to save the animal. So the papa, there's always like Russian. The papa asks the buyer, so Maya Hanilek, how did you help Babasa? You spend $100 to save him $100 animal. Maybe Babasa would have bought a new animal. Now, no, he still appreciates what the Shema did. He has a certain familiarity. The behemoth knows how he works. He knows how the behemoth works. They work together very well. To start from scratch and training an animal is expensive. Or you know, go find an animal. Go find an animal. Anyway, so Rabbi is of the opinion that even though Abai disagrees, Rabbi is of the opinion that Shema, as long as he did the normal, care of duty, is good enough. Comes along. They say they didn't agree with him. They hold that as a shaman, you need an extra layer. You have a responsibility, even more than you watch your own things. You have an extra responsibility. You get paid. You got to be responsible. The Balwa says the Hachi Yagul Agri. Why am I paying you? And you say that I want you to watch it better than I would have watched it myself. I want you to give it a little bit extra care. Baradas Vula, there's a guy called Baradas Vula. How they come that he was once transported or leading his animals, a gamla in Narush, that went over the bridge of Narush River, and they were walking across. And what happened was, one of the animals gave a kick or pushed shove the other animal. The Shadisima fell in the water. And the question is, as a shame, is he responsible? He said, yes, you're responsible. Everyone does it this way. That's how you take care of the animals. You should have done one at a time. As a shemachina, maybe you don't have to. In other words, exactly more than if you're balabos, maybe you're done this way. But in other words, he disagrees with Rabba and sort of agrees with Abaya. That no, Shem Sacher has to have an extra layer of care. You should have one at a time. You know your brother, your sister's children. In other words, are you a farmer? Are you a shepherd? You know how it goes. That's how everyone does it. The much that what you want is how much time it takes to go one animal at a time. It's a big job. There were many other shepherds before you who screamed as loud as you. And they all relied on Rabbi that says, as long as you do it the normal way, it's good enough. But nobody listened to them. That Avoi once gave to Runya, a linen garment. Ozal Shabu came along this famous Ganav called Shabu, and Shamtaming stole it. L'soif who could have Ganav? They caught him. And the question is, what happens now? Does the shaman have to pay because it was stolen? He's responsible. Pay the balabas, and then the shaman now has to go to court with this runya, with this Ganav Shabu, and get elected back. Or now that we know the Ganav is, the shaman says, "I'm stepping out of the picture here. You guys work it out." He said, no, the Shema, you have to pay the balabas, and then you turn around to the Ganef and you collect from him. Why? Because since Uker Haganef, you're not going to lose anything anyway. And therefore, it's your duty to go through the rigmarole and to get back your money from the Ganef. Let's say it was stolen, then they found the Ganef. If he's a shaymechinem, if he was a shayme, if he wants, he can swear, and if he wants, he can either swear and walk away from it and tell the shayme, the owner, you deal with it, or he can pay the balabas and then turn around to the guy and collect from him. And if he's a shayme then he has to. What do you call it? He has to deal with it. Now, here was an onus. Here was an onus. So one thing is, you say a normal case of Geneva, which Shema is normal chayiv by Geneva, but they will be caught the Ganev. What's the difference? Look, you're chayiv Geneva. You're Shema Sacha. You're chayiv Geneva. So since you're chayiv Geneva, it's your problem. You pay the balabas. Who could Ganev? You go to Ganev and collect your money back. But if it's an onus where he's potter from, he's potter. Here, Rabbi said that even if it was stolen by onus, you're chayiv. So you have to pay. You can't step away. You have to first deal with the guy, and then you pay the balabas, and then you turn around to the ganef. Rava says over there it's not really an onus. It's not really an onus. And therefore they agree. We're talking about a normal case of neighbor. It says here, that if it's like an onus. There were plenty of soldiers all around. If what's an onus by stealing? Like a Gazan Mizuyan. A list in Mizuyan. A Gazan comes in, all with weapons, it's called an onus. You were to raise his voice, people will come running and help, so it's your fault. Now the big machek is a shayim sacher who's minding money, and he dug. The expression is a hole in the ground 100 meters deep, and then was stolen. Is he chayiv or not? So according to Muki Yosef and others, the shayim sacher has to watch it 24 hours a day. Why would anybody be a shayim sacher? I don't know. You thought, and therefore, since you didn't watch it, even though you hid it, it's an onus. It's not an onus. The only onus is listed in the museum. In other words, because this is even though you're watching, what could you do? And other Rishonim say no, that's considered an onus. Listim Mizuyin is only an example, but doesn't necessarily mean only Listim Mizuyin. Even if you're not watching it, if you did everything that you could do, and this is the extra layer, even according to our Papa and Chizah, you did the extra layer because you hid it in a place that it was an onus. You're Papa. Next mission, Zevechad ain't onus. If one wolf attacks, it's not an onus. You could have stopped it. Shnei Zeh, but two wolves attack, onus. What could you do? When the Eibishter, Rashi uses Xeris HaMelech, means the Eibishter, there's a plague or something, the animals are roaming, and then Avzeh Bechad Einus, even when they're wild and people panicking. It's not your fault. Shnei two dogs, they know Einus is not an accident. You do a Babel you do from Babel says, if the wolf comes from one, if the dog comes from one place, then it's not an onus. So you can deal with two dogs in one place. Or the mishteruch, if they come attack you from both sides, then you can't deal with two sides. Onus. Halistim robbers had a onus. Robbers, that's an onus. Even one robber. This is brazen ones. Ari, a lion, a dove, a bear, a leopard, a bardless. What was our good bardless is whether it's a polecat. We haven't begun about a common interest. Is a polecat. Exactly. Some say it's a form of a snake. Some say that it's an animal, which I don't know what it is. The first 13 years, this is the Oroch. The first 13 years of its life, it's male, and then automatically it transitions. Now, even the transgenders didn't figure this one out. Automatically, without doing anything, it transitions to a female the next 13 years. That's about what kind of animal that is, I don't know. And that's a bardless. Others say it's a weasel, the weasel family. The snake had an elo inus. These animals are people are petrified and so on. Amazib is much more than they come on their own. You brought them to a place that it's infested with these animals, and it's your fault. Ain't no anus, obviously. Basic animals are naturally as anus. Sugfa, you tortured it. The mace said it died. For example, you put it in the heat, or you didn't feed it properly, and it's weak and made it vulnerable. Then it's not an anus. Also, the Russia took if the animal walked on its own to the cliffs, then I'll fill it anus. Hell, if you brought the animal up there and then when it slipped, then it may say no einus. Think about it quickly. One wolf is an einus. One wolf when they're able to sort of set them free and they're running around. There's a melech. Rabbi Yehuda says they're dangerous. Am I one robber? Why is that suddenly a threat? Look at Gabra. You'll stand up for yourself. We're talking about he's armed. Here, interesting question. Least in Mizuyin, Luraya Mizuyin. The bandit is armed, but the shepherd that you gave it to is also armed. Mao, what happens in this case here? The guy should have stood up and defended the animal. The guy that's prepared to give his life away. That's his profession. And the Ray is not going to give his life away for a sheep.
But I'm getting $25 an hour.
Exactly.
My life.
The high mosanafshe, high low mosanafshe. The Ganef, this is his profession. He's going to give his life up for it. I'm going to buy the Rav Ashkar. Let's say if a roya met his ganef, the roya met the ganef. The roya wanted to scare the ganef. She tells the ganef, "I'm like ganef sarye beduchte planning dasvin. I want you to know we're in this place, but we are so protected. We have so many people with us. We have so many dogs with us. We have so many, like slingshots, whatever. We are fully equipped. We have a big army. Don't you dare come." But all of a sudden, the God came. Is it like an invitation? Okay,
I know what to plan for.
sort of, you taunted him, so he has to prove to you that nothing can stand him away, or you did the right thing by exaggerating. Hopefully, it'll keep him in bay. If you expose them to this place, you're responsible. The guy probably didn't even know you existed. You told the guy of your whereabouts. He told him of this. He knew that you're exaggerating. So therefore, you're at fault. Take your Shabbos. Tomorrow night, 7:00.